If you're building a big HL15 NAS for Plex, backups, bulk media, you've probably heard, just use the RAIDZ2, it's fine, it'll do what you need. But how does RAIDZ2 actually scale when you go from, let's say, a single disk for a baseline up to a 5-wide RAIDZ2 vdev, then to 2, then to 3 vdevs, all comprising of 5 disks. So today, we're gonna fill our HL15 beast here with 15 22 terabyte hard drives in a RAIDZ2, and we're gonna look at that usable capacity, throughput, etc. Hey there folks, I'm Zack Perry with 45 Homelab. In this video, we're going to take our HL15 beast, as mentioned, loaded up with those 22 tera hard drives. They're gonna be Seagate Exos HDDs. And first thing, we're gonna start with a single disk just to get a baseline here. Then we're gonna do that 5-disk vdev, and then add the second and third. So we're gonna use FIO and some ZFS tools to measure how sequential read and write throughput changes as we add vdevs, so we can actually see how RAIDZ2 performance scales as you add more vdevs, more resources. Before we get into this, a large amount of you aren't subscribed, so if you found this video helpful, give us a follow, give us a subscription, whatever you want to call it. So in the first section, we are going to talk about our HL15 as a big data box. And I'm going to keep the hardware detail specs light here. So the high level setup is our HL15 beast of 15 drives, 22 terabytes, Seagate Exos. Our CPU is an AMD EPYC 7452, RAM 128 gigs of DDR4. Running Ubuntu 22 with our Houston UI that is utilizing the Cockpit project. And the workloads we're targeting with this box are Plex, Jellyfin media libraries, long-term backup, snapshots, archives, any sort of those long, sequential, very contiguous sort of files. CCTV footage is another one. General dumping ground for all of those large files. And this is going to give us a better usable terabyte per drive, plenty of sequential performance for big file workloads, and extra parity for these huge 22 terabyte disks. So we're gonna focus on one question. If I start with a 5-disk RAIDZ2 and scale up to 10, then 15 drives, after we establish our baseline, of course, what is my throughput, what's my capacity, etc. Now, why not use mirrors or RAIDZ1? Some people might be asking. So RAIDZ2, just to cover that one first, uses parity instead of full copies as you would with RAID 10 or mirrors, so you get much better usable capacity than mirrors. You're not losing that 50%. And it can survive any 2 disk failures inside of each individual vdev. So then you have your RAIDZ1. Now, back when I started here about 5 years ago, where you had 10 and 20 or 10 and 12 terabyte drives, we would do an entire AV15 on the enterprise side long before we had the Homelabs, where it would be a RAIDZ2 15 drive vdev, and those rebuild times, as the pool fills up, like, you get to that 70–80%, it can take a while, like maybe day, 2, maybe a couple of days, depending. But nowadays you have, for instance, 22 terabyte hard drives like we're using today, 30s. If you get to that 80 plus vdev fullness or pool fullness level, and you have a 15 drive vdev of that, those rebuild times are going to be astronomically long, and you actually, or potentially, I would say it's a pretty good chance you're putting yourself in a data loss scenario, or just not a great scenario altogether, because if you have all of those, let's say there is, I can't do math, so we have our 10 disks, 22 terabytes, that's 222 terabytes raw, then 44, let's say around a little under 300 terabytes. You have that around 80%. You're gonna have like over 250, something around there. Somebody's gonna correct me on that, but anyways, so that means that you're gonna have to rebuild, resilver all that data. And what happens is that all of that is going to be intensive across that entire vdev, and that's gonna be happening for days and days, possibly multiple weeks, depending. And then when you have that sustained workload that can take weeks, multiple weeks, it really stresses those disks and exacerbates that potential of a drive failure or multiple drive failures, especially as those disks start to age. Might not be an issue now, but as time goes on and those disks get some hours on them, get some years under the belt, that starts to ramp up kind of dramatically. And RAIDZ1, because I think I might have went off on a tangent beforehand there, Not really great because you lose one drive, let's say you're not home, and that means that if you lose another drive in that vdev, you're kind of out of luck there, unfortunately. If you don't have backup, always have backup, multiple backups in fact. Every vdev you add gives you more spindles to stripe over, so that gives you more sequential throughput, more usable terabytes, or teries as I usually like to call them, because parity is per vdev. The same any two disks in this group can die, protection, but spread across more total disks, which changes with the overall pool risk profile. So you have 3 vdevs, RAIDZ2, 5 disks each. You can lose 2 in this vdev, 2 in this vdev, and 2 in this vdev. Still be perfectly fine. You won't be fine, but you will still have your data. So story here is RAIDZ2 is how we get big, safe, efficient storage, and by adding multiple RAIDZ2 vdevs, we can scale both capacity and throughput. Now, the ZFS layouts that we're testing, that I've said ad nauseum so far because I wrote this script apparently wanting to repeat everything. So we have our single disk, no redundancy, and that's going to be one 22 terabyte drive, so single disk pool. I've never set one of these up for actual any sort of production, but it's a good baseline. Then we're going to start with one RAIDZ2, 5 drives, so 3 disks of data, 2 parity. Then we're going to add another vdev to that same pool, and then finally a third vdev. And we're going to run some FIO tests to kind of see how things scale up there. Now, we might get some things like, usually you get about 270, 260 to 280, I think is the sequential write for these kind of drives here. Same thing for reads. So we might see something a little bit different because there are some things that I may not have accounted for, so do take this with a grain of salt. But for our actual vdev itself, we're going to set some parameters that will make the benchmark testing a little more true to form, making sure that we don't hit the arc, making sure that we don't have anything that might skew the results. But who knows, might find something a little bit surprising here. But yeah, let's get into it and start with our setup here. All right, folks, so let's actually take a look here and actually do some performance testing. So we're going to start with one disk just to establish a bit of a baseline here. Now, I've done what I believe will give us our most accurate results. Now, we might see some surprises in this, but what I've done so far is I've set the ZFS, what's the word I'm looking for? Primary cache. I've set that to none, so previously tried setting it to metadata, decided let's just go across and set it to none there, have it go right to the disks. I have direct 1 for my FIO, so again, direct to the disks. I have the file that it's writing is time-based, so I did make the file larger than the amount of available RAM we have, but being again that it's time-based, not super, not a big point in there, but what we're gonna do is hopefully we'll get some interesting results here. One I'm expecting is our disks here. So I did run some of these tests previously, so up until about 10 minutes ago, just so we don't have to keep our editor here while I do 1-minute FIOs over and over again. So the first one that I ran here was our one disk with our 22 terabyte Seagate Exos. So, and let's just take a look at our FIOs actually. So for this, and let's see if we have it here. Yes, here we go. So this is our read, but it's essentially the same one as the write, the one up top, just you're changing the name and the file name, or sorry, not the file name, the read write to write instead of read. So for our write, what we did was this here was just write instead of read, and this was sequential write. So time-based, 60 seconds, size 256, because we have 128 gigs of RAM. Our IO depth 1. Now, was playing around with 16, 32, and they were all fully saturating the disks there for the most part, so decided to leave it at 1. Our block size, 1 meg, just to kind of replicate that large sort of sequential file types like Plex, CCTV, like something from Frigate, and yeah, just kind of things like that. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at our first FIO. Again, this is a single disk just to establish a baseline. So we can take a look at all this here, but the main thing that we are concerned about is our right here, just kind of the aggregate of everything. So IO, latency, things like that. not too concerned about, because again, these are hard drives. They are not known for being great at those sort of workflows, those sort of things. So we're just focusing on straight up bandwidth. Now for writes, we were getting about 292. So a little bit higher than what I would expect for a single disk, especially a hard drive. They're usually about 200, 250, let's say, like that. So it seems like there's either something in my file or maybe something that I haven't accounted for with the ZFS file system itself. Now, we did account for the caching, everything like that, but there are so many facets to performance testing, and I was kind of going back and forth on if I was going to do FIOS or if I was just going to do, let's say, a Samba transfer showing real life sort of performance. Now, if that's something that you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below, and that'd actually be a good one to do. So yeah, but without further ado, let's go and check our read now. So we'll go all the way down here. So again, a little bit higher here. Well, quite a bit higher than I would expect. Reads are always going, well, not always. For the most part, they're going to be more performant than your writes. Now we're getting about 462. Now for a one disk, won't really, as I mentioned, this is just our baseline. What I'm really interested in is when we get to our single vdevs, which performance shouldn't be too much. Actually, no, it will be different because we're doing RAIDZ2 of 5 disks for each vdev. So that means we're going to get, theoretically, the performance of 3 disks, because 3 data disks, 2 for parity. That's for our writes. Now, let's actually look at our single vdev here and see what we get. So let's clean this up a bit, and we'll do cat 1 vdev. Let's see here. So now we have our 1 vdev. So what we have for a write, and actually I didn't put the read in here, so we'll do that one actually live. Now, let me just get that one up. Go through the million things that I was doing other than things for this video. And people are just saying in the comments right now, why don't you just do a history? Because mama didn't raise no quitter. Okay, maybe, nope, there we go, we're good, never mind, we're good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change around this IO depth a little bit. So we're gonna change that to 1. We're gonna set this to read. All right, so ran that read file in the background there, added it to my file there. So let's take a look. So we have 1 vdev, and that is of 5 disks. So let's take a quick look at our zpool status actually. So zpool status. And we can see I have our RAIDZ2. It's a single vdev. We just did a read test on it here. This is the same one we did a write test on. So we have 605 megabytes a second. So this is actually what I'd expect to see for something like this kind of vdev setup. Because remember, we are doing it's gonna be 3 disks of performance roughly at about, let's say 150 to 200 on the higher end. So 200 times 3, 605, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, if we go down to our actual, let's see here. So again, our read here is very, very high. Now, let's actually see, let's do a little bit of investigation here and see what we have. Might find out what the cause is, might not. So one thing that we can do, let's actually center this up a little bit better. There we go. So if we do, and open up a separate tab here, and go into this, and clear iostat -x1. Ooh, that is not looking good. So let's make this full screen. And now we can see everything here is reporting 0 at the moment. We'll also bring up a third one here and do a top, just kind of see what our memory allocation and things like that look like. So, and do I have htop on this? Yes, I do. So we have that. And now let's run that read test again, kind of see what we get. All right, so actually let's cat the file here, cat 1-vdev. And there we go. Okay, so We're gonna run this now, and let's take a look and see where disks are doing. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all getting pinned there because it is going to be doing it. When it comes to a read, it's reading from all of those disks as opposed to just 3 there. Now, utilization, pretty consistent. I mean, dropping a little bit, but right near that 89 to 100% that we have there. Let's see what our RAM looks like. So memory 260, so it is not going through it there. Excuse me. So actually that's a mistake on my part. So it still is quite high, 1500 megs. Now, why it is that high would need a little bit of investigation. Maybe it's something obvious that I'm just not seeing at this second, but I mean, who knows? So we have tank, 1 vdev, and test file. We know our paths, right? We're not writing to the boot drive, which is good because then this video would be a lot shorter, at least for a little bit. But yeah, about 1500 megs. So that's an interesting one. I'm gonna look into this after this video here. I'll post in the comments. By the time I get to it, somebody will probably already have oh, you did this wrong. But let's see what our 2 vdev looks like. Cat 2 vdev. So our writes here. Now we have, again, 2 vdevs, so that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we should get about 1100, 1200 megabytes. So just under at 1084 megabytes a second. Now our reads, let's see. Now that's interesting. So this one here is a little bit on the low side compared to what I'd expect. So about 977. And this is one of the things that I went into this thinking, okay, this is going to be a headache because 1, I don't do a ton of FIO testing, but this also goes to highlight that you can run the same tests and your expected outcomes on the same data sets, just adding resources. You would expect the read performance to be better with each additional VDEV, but that data is, it all depends on how that data is spread across the VDEVs, how the disk health at that time. Actually, you may have noticed I'm in a different outfit than what we were doing previously in the video here. 1, because winters hit Cape Breton, so got to dress warm. But 2, because I had a disk failure at the time and it skewed my results wildly. So we had to get that fixed and everything. But this is why I'm a bigger fan of real-world tests for your specific workload, which FIO can absolutely do, but it's one of those things you can have it skewed either positively or negatively, and either on purpose or by mistake, like something here I might be doing that is not up to scope on how I should be testing this. But I guess it's a long-winded way of saying that try FIOs out for yourself, but take them with a grain of salt. I mean, if you really know what you're doing, you can definitely get what you need. But if you're an average person like myself, real-world tests are my recommendation. But this is kind of just a fun little experiment to kind of see what we get here. Now, finally, let's do our 3 vdev. And let's see. So, funny enough, the write performance is what I would expect there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 times 200 or 150. So about on the high end, 1800, low end, 1502. That is to be expected there. And of course, I think most people would know that if your network backbone is only 1 gigabit, you're never going to see these anyways. But if you have a 10 gig, if you have like 25, you're going crazy. A lot more feasible, but this is just bare minimum what each VDEV can do without any overhead of adding a protocol, network, etc. Now let's see our reads. So we're getting about 1031. So again, that is lower than I would expect, but still it is pretty decent there. It's funny because with how low it is, I have the sneaking suspicion that either the ARC is still doing a little something in the background here. Well, actually, no. If it was ARC was doing something in the background, I'd expect those that to be quite a bit better. And maybe that's it too. I have it off there, so it isn't being as efficient. So take that with a grain of salt, these results here. I mean, we could run one with it on, and actually, let's do that now. ZFS set, let's see, primary cache. All right, so now we have ZFS set primary cache all. That's what it is by default. So let's run that actual read test again on the one vdev that we did before and see what we kind of get now. So read file, let's actually grab the proper one again here. cat1 vdev. All right, so as you can see before, we're getting 1500. So this one was actually performing pretty well there. So let's see if our having our arc on will change that at all. Okay, block size here. All right. All right, so here we go. So we now have a read of, it's actually lower. So actually, this is funny now. So I know there is just something small that I'm missing here. So again, take it with a grain of salt. The reads or the writes are definitely more what I would expect to see. Reads, on the other hand, a little skewed, but take note in the comments there. I'll make sure to post that after, before we post this video out, because I don't want to be the last one to have the answer to this. But so let's clear that there. So I guess long story short here is what I'm saying with the testing is that, yeah, you can test all day. You can get certain performances there. Some are expected, some are not, as we can see here. This video was kind of just off the cuff. Now, again, I don't do a ton of FIO testing, especially on single server ZFS pools, but it's one of those skills that does take a little bit of know-how. And one of the things that I do like a lot about the Homelab community is that there's so many different builds, so many different ways of doing things out there that some people may not even use FIO, some people use DD, some people use other actual like GUI tools, let's say. If you have a preferred test that you do, whether again it be CLI, GUI, etc., let me know in the comments down below. But with that said, let's go back to the outro here and we'll tie everything up. So to recap, we took an HL15 piece, filled it with 15 22 terabyte hard drives, started with single disk, get a clean sort of baseline there, built a 5-disk RAIDZ2 vdev for, you know, your classic big NAS behavior there, then added a second 5-disk RAIDZ2, watching how those sequential read and write throughput scaled each time, which was a little surprising. As you can see, I was a little flabbergasted myself, but we decided to, you know, turn off the primary cache, that L2 arc, which didn't have the effect I had, or I was expecting, but this is just to kind of show how at least your write performance, and generally your read performance when you don't bungle your FIOs or your testing or something like that, will scale with performance, or scale with each additional vdev. Now, if you're doing a RAID 10, it's going to be the performance of a single disk each vdev. If you're doing a RAID Z2, it's going to be those disks. So in this case, 3 disks, minus the 2 for your parity, so 5 total, minus 2. I did that math in a really weird, confusing way. Apologies for that. But yeah, that is our testing here. This is kind of just a little off-the-cuff video. Hope you found it informational and not too confusing on the results, because I did for sure. But if you want to see everything that we have on offer, head on over to store.45homelab.com. All our socials will be in the description down below. And if you can tell what game I've been playing recently based on the host name of our server, well, I can't promise you anything because last time I did that, I got in trouble. No, I'm kidding. But let me know in the comments down below. And with that, let's all have a good time home labbing. Have a good, safe week. I don't know what I'm trying to say. We've tried shooting this 3 times already with varying issues happening, so I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say anymore. I hope you have a good day, good rest of your week. Oh, one more thing. So financing now available in the US. It's been in Canada for a while, but now to our neighbors of the South, we have it available. So if you want to get a fully loaded HL15 Beast, HL15 2.0, HL8, anything, our financing is now available for you. So check that out at store.45homelabs.com. Oh yeah, one other thing noticed. So most of you aren't subscribed to the channel here. So if you want to see more things like we did today, more of me rambling for Joe just told me 40 minutes and he's giving me a death stare right now. So he's going to love that. But if you want to see more of that, give us a like, a subscribe to the channel to see more stuff like that. And with that said, have a good one. Oh, you want to do here? You want to do some testing? Oh, disk's gonna die. Oh, you want to write your boot drives? I mean, that one's on me because I'm an idiot. But yeah, do that too. And now it's just like, oh, okay, you did all your testing, but you forgot to take read and change it to write. Yeah, sure. I mean, mind you, these are more self-inflicted, but I'm still going to complain about it nonetheless.